All right, we are about to go live. Okay, are you set to take notes?
Yep. Right, the meeting will now come to order at 6:03 p.m. In Chair Moore's absence, I will be serving as chair for this evening. Go through attendance, Keith Kelly.
Here.
Valerie Alexander Mosley.
Here.
Natasha Alexander.
Letitia here.
Natisha. Richard Conti. Sonia Hurd.
Here.
Our newest member, Dr. Kimberly Wilkins.
Here.
We're also joined by Jasmine Higgins and Bryce Mobile. So we do have a quorum and we can begin business. First order of business is approval of the August minutes, which have previously been sent out. If there are no objections, we will approve that by general consent. Excellent. Second order of business is update from our executive director.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining tonight. I just have a few updates really primarily related to the ongoing equity agenda audit that's happening. We've received some inquiries regarding the work product of the commission and the responses to the equity agenda report. Just looking for some clarity with respect to the comments that were provided in 2018, 2019, and 2020. And we can discuss further, but just what types of recommendations have been provided with respect to street repairs, parks, street lighting, capital improvements, just the overall built environment and equitable budgeting. This also includes violence prevention. So I just want everyone to keep that in mind. And if you have any questions from previous years, just with your familiarity with the report, if you wouldn't mind sending me that. If you have any follow-up questions for the recommendations that I previously provided, implemented, what happened, what follow-up occurred, just please send that to me. I'll be sending a more detailed response and inquiry to you all, but just something I want this commission to be focused on as we work to produce the 2022 report. I've received the majority of the data requests from our departments. There's some fine tuning going on just to make sure that it's presented in a format that the community can digest and everyone can understand very clearly and understand the business practices, the operations, and the decision making and why. So that's one of the things that we're working on. We're gonna break off. Do you have a question?
Oh, no, I had a question on data information. Since the ward lines were changed, are they doing it on the current ones or the new ones that were adopted by the council? The new ones, are they adjusting previous data? They would have to go back and adjust that to reflect the new lines, so you have a comparative base. And
So-
that
is a good question. I have asked for the new lines to be factored into the mapping that we're going to be conducting. So let's say, for example, these are the locations for our parks. These are the former ward lines, these are the new ones. Whether we can go back and amend the previous year's report to reflect that change, that might be quite a bit operationally, but we're definitely working on it to reflect that.
you don't need to really, amend the previous year reports, to reflect.
That's the goal.
Something.
Yes, it'll require some assistance from a GIS mapping consultant who we're working on bringing on here in the city, but it is something that we're considering, we're factoring it into the future reports. Just a matter of how exactly to do that and show that change and explain, well, this is still within this neighborhood, even though the neighborhood is technically defined. But it is within this ward as opposed to the southern ward.
If they did the data watching anything else based on neighborhoods rather than one lines, it would be a lot easier. Because it would be more accurate. It's more lines to represent neighbors.
Correct. But yeah, so that's something that we're thinking of, and then in order to distill the response and information, just make it a little easier, more manageable. I'm wondering if the commission would like to break off into groups in terms of who will review which section or which aspects of the report. I'm happy to have a discussion about that. Obviously, if you want to provide comments on every section, you're more than welcome to, but maybe this will help break up the work for a little bit. So we're happy to have a conversation about that.
That's what we've done in the past and we both put up.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay. Has it worked? Do you, would you prefer to do it a different style? What are your-
It worked for me, I took on. And Commissioner Alexander Bowman, the only other one. That was here.
Like I said, the only thing for me is time, how you gave it to us, rush, that had to happen. You know, with people, and not enough time to review it, ask questions.
So, my thought is that I'm working on compiling an Excel spreadsheet with the recommendations from the previous year's report, just breaking it down by section, part, create lines, filings, budgeting, so on. And so that everyone can see what's been said in the past, where we're going, and where we might be headed, just as a comparison point. If there are questions about previous recommendations, what's been done or how, just let me know, and we'll work through that, but I figure that might be helpful, for this project. Any comments, questions, concerns?
Just going back to the audience, the audience looking at recommendations that were made in the previous reports, and so that would, in terms of any comments with line numbers there, here, actually, when the previous reports were done.
Yes, and
Yes, okay.
yes. Regardless of, obviously, there are some members who are here and some members who weren't, nonetheless, the commission as a body still has to provide a response as to what has happened and or why it hasn't. Yes. Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so is everyone okay with breaking up the report, and if you also want to provide a full record of comments? And then I would also like to do final assignments for subcommittees. So I have received some responses from folks, but in order for each subcommittee to work, we need at least a minimum of 3 people on the committee. So we've got the investigations committee, community nonprofit, events and engagement, communications and social media. I'm just gonna get up and I'm just gonna write it down. I'm gonna go around the room. So if you all pick your top 2, I'm gonna create, that would be helpful, and so maybe you should have,
One, sure.
Investigations and community. No social media for me.
all right. All right, guess what it's.
Investigations in the community.
Still,
Investigations and community. Yeah.
hey,
Investigations in social media, you don't want yet, that's. I can get it on, so.
okay.
Up to your face.
Yes, yes, so I think I said in, like, top one would be social media, and I think the second one would be, it's a community is one, it's community, yeah, that would be the second one.
All right.
Action and investigations, and I'll also do. Community nonprofits, community nonprofit, yeah.
All right, and Tom.
Social media and books, wherever else nearby.
Pretty even. Want to do community nonprofit start during your role?
Absolutely.
And then Aaron said we'll start with all 3. Okay, perfect. And so in breaking it down to subcommittees, I would ask that we have an additional meeting each month, whether it's just 30 minutes to check in, or we create some additional communication lines so that we're communicating a bit more routinely with one another with respect to that specific function. Sorry.
Is that a meeting that could be like Zoom or?
Yes.
Okay.
Because it technically won't be for a meeting.
So this would be advisory rules, so their advisory rules, subject to meetings,
Okay.
therefore need to.
Might get more out of it. Yes, this is probably winter time.
Oh, yes. None of us got out until. Okay, you had a question? Yes. So I'll start sending out, meeting dates and times for everyone to respond to, and we'll try and make a monthly one, but if we need to be more flexible, we can work on that too. One of the things I'm working on obtaining for the commission is investigations training. I know that there are some members who have worked in investigations, but just so we're meeting the responsibilities that are laid out in the CHR legislation that says the commission does not have any responsibility to investigate complaints of human rights. So that's one of the things that we're working on. And once we get questions on the next specific person and availability, I'll work with you all to make sure that it's when the majority of you are available, that we might be able to work with it or something.
Excellent.
I think that was mainly it, aside from the fact that the city budget comes out tomorrow, the proposed budget. I asked for a very slight increase for the commission, just so that we might, be recently more public facing. So that we might be able to get the banner and get these resource guides once they're all finalized. I believe I received most folks' submission, but if you haven't, please make sure to get it to me before the week is over. And I believe that's all I've done.
Excellent.
It's going to, how comprehensive, but I don't know what was responsible, how comprehensive is the resource guide? Are there, since based on what people submitted, are there any areas like there might be holes where there should be someone listed or something like that?
So as far as I can tell, we had some duplicates. There were 2 folks who listed the Red Bookshelf. And then there were some services that were outside of the city, but within the capital region were available to the community. So I think it's just kind of whittling down what our geographic region is and how are we defining human rights resources? And are we considering that more broadly? Is it the ability to access education, housing, or is it I'm in crisis and I need someone who can help me right now? Things like that. So just discussing the breadth of what we want. And I'm happy to discuss that right now too. Do we want to go big or do we want to go more focused?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, when you put it out, if you're not going to hear then from some organization that says you left me out, how do we figure out, did we leave anybody out that should be included because maybe anyone's table didn't think about it?
I could make some type of submission, community submission form, so that if people have recommendations, they can sign up to their job form and make the recommendation that the commission be done review and decide if it's appropriate. I think that's what United Way does.
Can you like get on the SECC on Tuesday mornings and have people email you non-for-profits? Because there's so many non-for-profits there, and it's a lot dealing with mental health,
Yeah.
you know, gun violence. So I think like getting on the SECC, the South Lincoln Collective, and the West Hill Steering Committee were already went. So we were announced it in those areas right there. Because the SECC has sometimes have to do some big one.
Yes. It's not a great day. Okay, absolutely. Any other questions, comments?
Are we printing the resource guide in-house or?
Probably gonna have to go out of house, just thinking about the volume. And we have a marketing person here who would be able to make it nice and presentable, but that would be something to think about. And it wouldn't cost too much to go out of house, printing up 1,500 copies.
Would you consider doing, printing but using QR code so that people can actually do more? Yes, that makes sense.
Absolutely.
And then I just have one other question related, but not to the resource guide, and I guess it comes to the Jewish with disability and being a community events or tabling. Do we have like some kind of very basic brochure about what the mission is? That's a tool that you use, rather than, I mean, the resource guide is one tool, like complaint forms is something else, but also just something very basic in terms of what the human rights commission was on.
Not as far as I can find one. I will say that the majority of the time when I do speak to people about the commission, they focus on the investigatory function of the commission, in addition to this bringing in people to have dialogues about issues in the community. So I want to make sure that as we are providing that, we have something in addition to it. So I can try and work on that and just copy what's in the.
Yeah, it's basically just taking what's in there already and formatting it. Or if you want, I can work on something like that, please.
When I asked her that, I was just told to go to the website, so the website didn't print what they had.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that would be helpful, thank you. Any other concerns, questions, comments, users? And then with respect to events and attending events, the city of Albany events calendar for the remainder of the year. I sent that out to everyone in recent. That you just take a look and let me know what day and what time slot you might be available to attend your table, so that everybody can be present at. We've got like the Halloween 5K, where we'll have the Christmas tree lighting eventually. You don't have to hold like it's the worries. But just ensuring that we're being more visible. So whether it's at, for example, like the South End Community Collective, we have representative there, or this heritage holiday, something of that sort. So folks are aware of events, please just send that to the whole group. If you're interested, please come. If you can't make it, it would be possible to send someone else, just opening up those lines of communication again.
So in previous years, we talked about tabling certain events because we really don't table. I mean, you go out, but nobody knows this year from
Yes,
right.
So we need to find a way to let people know that we're present, not just that we go there and we're just there. And people still won't, but there, I mean, we should tell the people and tell people who you're representing, but a lot of us are representing a lot of different organizations, so.
That's true.
Be very specific about why we're there.
Well, and that's the thing too, so I think if folks are acting as a representative of the community. Time, especially because the commission is receiving stipends for this work, so you don't want to be doing two things at once as an actor of the commission. I'm working on getting like a tablecloth and perhaps like some name tags, but we do have some limited funds, so trying to make sure that we have money to create a brochure and other materials, and also be able to get through the year and a ceremony, things like that.
That's important.
Does it sound for the resource, the resource guy who goes to RFP?
That's.
It's only if it's in excess of 20,000, so not.
President insurance says be over.
I don't think we'll get anywhere close to that.
If it's anything $5 grand and under, then it need to be contracted.
So, for example, we printed, I think it was 2,500 census flyers at one point, it was less.
It's a direct contract.
Plus you're gonna have QR codes, so.
Exactly. Well, they could split it in thirds and that's pretty fun, and they just, boom, yeah. So any other questions, comments, concerns? Are there any events or anything that the commission wants other commissioners to be aware of upcoming? There's our Oktoberfest this weekend, it's not the cute race with it, but fun. They have dog races. Anything percolating the commission wants to discuss?
I'll bring up other new business, but that's all I've got. Thank you, Director Hayes. All right, moving on to old business. We don't have anything listed, but I do have a question, Jackie, about growth on the series that we had talked about.
Yes.
So I'd like to bring that up. Please. Oh, sorry, the growth on the series. So I'd like to bring that up for discussion, not to have more, but Justin, but do you have any thoughts or what can we do to get the ball rolling?
So ideas about what topics we'd like to focus on, what the underlying theme might be. That would be a great place to get started, and when this ideally occur. Do we want to have it in winter months? Do we want to try closer to spring? Things like that.
So are we talking about this, I mean, one event or, just the whole series, which was almost like monthly and went through.
Yeah. We could talk about either, and that's the other thing too, right? What is the capacity and bandwidth of the commission to assist with development of the event? Whether it's one or if it's a monthly series, would it be related to a heritage month or to something else? Would it be related to an issue, a long-standing issue in the community, and we'd have a panel or a dialogue of some sort. So that's one of the questions I have. Are there themes that folks are particularly interested in and want to discuss?
I think June would be logical for some kind of prize program.
Could we make more mention of?
That would be a good idea too.
I'm sorry, what was that? Mental health.
Any other ideas? Anything else?
African American History Month, Juneteenth.
So, and that is a good point. Last year, or each year, the council has their African American History Month celebration. I don't think it would be nice to mention how some heritage celebration, just a matter of making sure that we can organize that and have the ability to put it on. So if there's interest, we just have to talk about the details and what the focus is. Do we want to, again, do you want it to be like a resource event? Oh, please come to this fair where we're connecting you with this nonprofit.
Maybe the info share would be, I think that could be really good.
What was that?
An info share. That would really have one of those in file.
Then like location, even though it's called a Rotunda series, do we want it at the Rotunda? Do we want it in a public space? Do we want it in a private space? If it's a private space, then it would be factored in the cost of renting that space. Things like that.
If it was like, I mean, Henry Johnson, for example, is a big, huge.
That should be free, right?
Yeah.
As long as it's, you know.
It's not
Our factory knowledge, so you're not.
There you
Okay. So we can talk more about specific items and dates of as to when. Any additional thoughts about that?
Just for the sake of, not letting this fall behind, can we put a date on when we want ideas and topics from everybody so that we can move forward with what we're doing?
I would say October 13th, Friday.
October 13th, Friday.
Yeah,
Friday the 13th.
Friday.
So that would be a day to get our ideas,
Whatever it is, you can go big, you can go small.
or more the topic as opposed to the month or sometimes a month would be associated with the topic, but.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, ideas of places or potential partners to, things like that.
Thank you. Is there any other old business that we need to take up before we move on to new business? Okay, great. That being said, we will move on to new business. Our first item under new business is going to be the equity agenda.
So that's the item that we just discussed. If everyone is comfortable breaking into different sections, I'm not going to just for that. I'm here at the back, like we just did some. Yeah. Sure. You call it sure. Thinking about it. Okay, so.
We have lighting, you should put trees, so you can't see the light for the trees.
All right, there we go. So, is there anyone who feels very strongly about street repairs and street improvements for wards?
Yeah, I reckon my fire one, you know?
Yes, I called that one, yes, there we go.
It's right, so come on. What about parks? The condition of our parks, the amenities in our parks, the access, the focus? Street lighting? All right.
Yeah, put trees next to it.
Street lighting and trees.
Because they put up all this new lighting, but the big old trees cover our, some streets so dark.
Yeah.
What about capital improvements? So those are the big projects, Hoffman Park, the new Westfield Community Center, bridges, also big street repair, projects like that. Everyone can be on that.
Some of this stuff does overlap with this capital.
A lot.
Stuff is-
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is just typically over a certain dollar for your shoulder or something.
But you know what, also on that capital improvements, because I'm just gonna use this as a figure amount of money. Like Clinton Avenue, you spend $6.8 billion to do 3 blocks on Clinton, you skip a block, leave the street right, and you decide, well, right, it gets started at the next block, okay, this is making this.
No.
And then these are also all within the built environment category as well, and then we could talk about budgeting too with violence prevention. Is there anyone who wants to sit this?
Violence prevention.
Budgeting,
Budgeting.
I do violence prevention.
I don't know wherever you need about.
Okay,
So that falls with the whole.
okay.
Another person in parks.
Commissioner Alexander Wilson wants to run the venture.
I can join you in parks.
Thank you.
You gotta have somebody to talk to.
Was there anyone else in budget?
There you go. Commissioner Shelley, Commissioner.
Richard?
I mean, but we were,
What are you partial to?
Learn budgeting capital.
capital was just like capital improvements, that's fine.
And of course, you are also welcome to comment on everything else, but this is a good division, 2 people per group, and then Aaron can go as needed. But if there are things that you already are aware of in advance of me sending out any documents, just send me your thoughts and I'll sort of be into it and have everything. I know that we have some thoughts. So we'll get the ball rolling on that. Yes, Kate.
No, I'm just,
Um,
I'm out here.
I'll scan this in.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll just bring it down to my office. Okay, but I think this is a good division of labor, that this will be helpful, and that with the form that we have, the template, that we'll be able to catalog and record the commission specific recommendations moving forward.
In reviewing the equity agenda, does, are we, can we have information on how it's decided, what areas are being done? Because sometimes it's like the same areas are being done over and over again when that area is touched, and you know,
Absolutely, that's one of the things I'm working on right now, is a review of like the street scoring, and then based on the scores, the numbers that are there. How does it translate to street paving scoring? Yes, and then how are the decisions made as to which streets are paved? So I know, for example, when it snows, the main roads that are cleared first, hospitals, schools, public buildings. And then it's those cut across.
Then cut across.
And then it would be small streets, dead end neighborhoods. And that's so that the ambulance can get to right from, the kids can get to school, everyone can get where they need.
Yeah.
But, right, why is it that this street was decided, not this one, when they look fairly similar? Things like that, so just explaining the reasoning behind it so that it's a little clearer, that's one of the things that I'm working on.
Sure.
Any final questions, comments about this? I'll start sending these reports as we start refining them with the departments. You will have at least a month to review. Concerns, other business, other.
Excellent, thank you for your opinions. Ms. Woodward, getting to our public comment period, however, I do have an activity that I did not bring up. So many of you may have seen that the common council is scheduled to resume talks about a vote on amending city laws to prohibit, essentially prohibit gambling in the city. So it's creating quite a controversy across the city. I've been hearing from a lot of activists and community members that are being unhappy about it. And I received questions as to where we stand as a commission on it. So I was just wondering if anybody had any thoughts, comments?
So as I understand, there are kind of two proposals. One is a resolution that encourages people not to give. And then has something in there about providing brochures or whatever, anyway. So. Yeah, I think the term panhandle, but it is.
Mhm.
Begging or asking for money is constitutionally protected, all of that, so I don't know what the resolution is. But there's another ordinance, as I understand, that allows someone that's related to the existing, panhandling law. That allows, and right now, in terms of the violation of the city ordinance, an enforcement officer has to witness the violation in order to issue a citation or appearance tickets or whatever. And this would allow an individual who allegedly witnesses violation to sign an affidavit, and that then would be used for enforcement, even though the enforcement officer didn't witness it. And I don't know if one department has a.
More information for us?
Yeah.
Well, it seems like that's kind of like.
That's what.
Right, yeah. The officer has to witness violation. And so I don't know if there were any comments that the law department made.
Comments at this point, but,
Okay.
how I understand it is that.
Okay, just so everyone sees, I just put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
I just have a personal opinion about it. I don't like it. Well, I don't like that. Because on Clinton Avenue, where Henry Johnson Boulevard is, and on Central Avenue, right at the shop, right, there's a young man, he's always standing up there. One day he opened up my car door, because I let my grandson out to go one way, because he only lived up there in Coleman, and he opened up my car door, and my grandson came back. But that's dangerous, because, suppose my grandson wasn't there, right? And then he comes into the middle of the street on Henry Johnson, and when you don't stop and give him money, he hits your window, car, cursing and everything. So I'm very unsafe with it, and I wish that they could make it stop. But I know that people are really hurting for money, and some people do it, and they're really honest about it. They're hungry. You know, some people say, I just want to get a beer, you know, whatever it is, but it's just so unsafe to me. I don't like it.
And so that is an important distinction too. So there's the act of asking for money and just standing there, and then there's when you become aggressive and you start doing that you can take action against. That's not protected by free speech. I think that's harassment. But if you're, you know, I'm standing here, I don't have much, and I'm asking for money, you know, okay, I think slightly to some, but no one's rights or personal space is being violated. So I can send this around too, but it's very much like Richard described, very accurately. Just encouraging people not to give as opposed to providing what they're working on is card. Here's some resources that you can go to if you need housing and things like that. That's all I know about it, really.
Something along those lines. Personally, I don't get it, because I don't know what that person's going to do with the money. And I'd rather not give to those community groups, organizations that provide services, whether they be food pantries or, you know, they're in certain real estate kitchens or whatever. I feel money is better used that way. And trying to direct people to those services rather than giving $1 or 50 cents or change and not knowing what that person is really doing.
My question,
It is an issue of.
my question is because. My question is this. If you live in the city of Albany, we all know the one person that you're speaking for, who becomes very aggressive, appears to have some sort of drug problem. Aside from him, what I'm interested in knowing is how many of the other people around here panhandling are imposing harm on the community. That's what I take issue with. It seems like this
I don't see that.
resolution is very targeted at one individual that probably be helped in a number of other ways. My question also is, this came out under, they were saying that, what they call it, has to do. I can't even find the words right now, but they were basically talking about like having family anywhere is just, bringing down all things, makes us look like we're, a city and that sort of thing, where the same thing is taking place in Lincoln, it's taking place in Gilroy, and it's taking place in Saratoga. And my concern was if we're using that quality of life issue, that's what we call it. In my mind, having lived in Albany for a long time now, there's so many other quality of life issues that take precedent. And as a member of the commission, it looks like we're trying to impose on somebody's civil rights. It looks like that's what they're trying to do. That's what the appearance is to members of the community that I'm hearing from. And I understand where you're coming from. I'm like this hat, I may have a different whole opinion right outside of that. But I think that would be my concern. And again, I think there's now a campaign, there's a large campaign to speak out against the proposed resolution at the next city council meeting, and yes, yeah. So I mean, that's why I brought it to the table. And I think it's something that we should talk about as a committee, because I think we will get questions on it.
I think that, how there's a way for you to get a lot of grants, right? But I don't think that they give enough grants or any grants to the faith-based organizations, churches. We have a lot of churches in the city. And I think that for me, if they gave grants to the churches, because the people that are in the churches, they tithe and you do an offering, but that's to take care of the church, okay? And then give the pastor a salary. If the churches, faith-based organizations were allowed to apply for grants, and people are hungry like that and just need a couple of dollars, maybe the churches can help. And they wouldn't be out there doing that, because first of all, it's very unsafe, especially when ladies are out there. It's unsafe. So you have to figure out a way in the community to use the churches. They're there for a reason, and they're there to support the community. And if we don't use the churches for why we're there, then we're cheating a whole lot of people. We're leaving a whole lot of people out. Because it doesn't matter what you look like, what color you are, or what you're doing, as long as you're not committing a crime. So there are a lot of people, and unfortunately, the way DSS is you a dollar over, they're not helping you. And sometimes that dollar makes a difference. Okay, so I understand the people that are just trying to make it by. So maybe if the city, the state, federal government, whoever could look into giving grants to churches, and they don't have to be very large grants. They could be a $5,000 grant that'll last them through the year. But every year, think about funding the churches and giving them some type of grant to help these people.
I would have issues with that in a separation of church and state boundary. I would object to that on that front, as somebody who's not religious, and that would be something that I would not support. So just based on the intertwining of those two issues.
I'm just saying, for like my church, we're on North Pearl Street. We always get people to walk in our church and say, can you give me something to eat? And we have, we don't have a food pantry, but our missionaries, they provide food. So they have food, they give them a bag or two of food, and we give them a couple of dollars and stuff to hold them over. But I can't think of a Sunday that actually goes by that we don't have people that walk in our church. Even when we're at choir rehearsal, Sunday school, Thursday night study, somebody's always walking in our church asking, and we find a way to give it to them.
You were also talking about maybe example edge cases, whatever. An edge case I can think of would be Cascades Commons. And this is outside of Albany, but I'm there a fair amount. I live in West Greenwich of Albany. And there's people that sit right on the turning and they wave at the traffic and try to distract the traffic. And every time I drive in, I think, oh my gosh, they're gonna distract somebody, and they're gonna plow into somebody else, so that's not. Like, where do you draw the line between them having the right to be out there waving and asking for money, but also. I feel that there are public safety hazards standing right out there in the turn and yelling, oh, yeah, bless you. It always makes me very nervous that I'm gonna hit somebody because they're distracted me driving in there, so that might be another. If we wanna think about it in terms of public safety issues. Obviously, it's in Guilderland or Colony or whatever, I don't think it's technically in Albany, but. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's. You know, because we all seen the people out there a lot, I think, and I just feel like they're gonna cause an accident one of these days, and they're not actively doing anything wrong. They're not banging on windows or anything like that, but they're leaving, distracting traffic, 2 lanes, 3 lanes of traffic go both ways, so.
My concern is that the resolution assumes that this is gonna stop panhandling, right? So let's say that my first question is who gave out the palm cards?
I don't know.
Because if
I
in
think,
Commissioner Alexander both these cases, and she's supposed to have the palm card in her car?
Yeah.
How does that work, right? So this resolution is assuming that if you don't give them money, you're gonna panhandle and just gonna stop. We know that's not gonna happen. I would rather see the city taking their approach like New York City did, which is where they employed people and had a community team that went out, a homelessness team that went out and gave out the palm cards, and they gave out the resources, and they signed the folks up for the services that were needed, and they made sure that they connected them to the services and community organizations that.
So really,
yeah, I saw that survey of the city when, I think almost.
I also want to go there because I'm thinking, what's the main way of dealing with this and a resolution like this is not the way to do it. This problem, how do we help the solution to the problem? Go back to what New York City did. We didn't think about that. They did, and at the full scale, it's so large, but you gotta do something to abate it versus to embarrass it or whatever. This resolution feels like I'm kind of janky and it's not functioning at all.
Absolutely, no, I hear everybody, and thank you for bringing this up, Tom. So then the question is, does the commission want to put together a letter, a statement? It's up to you all. I just can't.
right.
I can stop you also, I can, but
What I would say, is there a motion on the table for the commission to take an official stance on the proposed resolution?
I have a question
Mhm.
first. I'm sorry, do we have a discussion? So, and I can only speak for my experience at the state level and doing state legislation. So like when something like this is out and there's a bill, there's usually like a letter of support, a memo of support, a letter of opposition, something like that. Is that what we're looking to do here? And if so, can we do like a memo of a letter of opposition with amendments, like suggesting other
Yeah, we can put out,
options to solve this problem?
we can put
Is
out,
that what we're looking to do?
we could put out whatever we want as a commission. We could put out like we don't necessarily support this and what we would like to see. We could just put out a letter of opposition, we could put out a letter of support. It would really be based on whatever the commission feels, what we come to an agreement on.
Yeah, I mean, you could also go to public comment and speak to, it's just up to how you want to do it.
And to that question, if people do choose to go and speak at public comment, are they speaking on a commission's behalf? So, feel like unless we have.
Putting on there, I think if you speak on an individual capacity and things that, unless you state that on behalf of the convention, right? Because usually when we sign up, they ask you your address, right? Where you live, so I think they design it where it's in an individual capacity.
Yes.
If you state that Well, what I've seen before is that someone will say, for instance, represent United Tenants, for instance. So you can assume that this is a statement on behalf of the organization.
Exactly.
So we can do that, right?
So could we do like a letter, to your point, could we do a letter that someone from the commission could read, public comment?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's up to you two, right? Like, you all might have slightly different philosophies on what the solution is. So whether you want to just take as the entire commissioner saying, this is our or our overall belief, we have different beliefs on operation, but we agree as a whole, mostly. Just. And I will send you this document too, so, you know, I think there's a new.
There will be one, speaking of. like,
It's gonna be very busy.
It's Monday.
Yes, they're in the post office.
It's the first or the seventh.
I suppose I could turn this meeting to,
This public hearing on the zoning, so that's first.
and I can talk about that. Yeah. I want to make sure that. Yes.
So does anybody have a particular feeling? Is there a motion to take a stance one way or the other? Is there a motion to stay neutral?
I'm fine with us. It sounds like most of us oppose it. I think we just need to figure out what solution we want to present as a body.
It can be something as general as, like, what Dr. Wilkins was saying, Commissioner Wilkins is looking to other cities to see what programs have been put in place and have been successful. It doesn't necessarily have to be extreme detail, like first, you know what I mean? Just even if we wanted to put out something that, you know, we oppose this and we would like to see the city look to other cities to see what has worked in those areas.
I'm fine with that.
What was supposed to be part of, like, I don't get the resolution, we discussed that. It was supposed to be part of a larger initiative.
I'll be honest, I have very limited knowledge
Yeah,
and limited involvement in the conversation. But I will get that.
personally, I'm not comfortable with things.
Okay. And, you know, if there are differences of opinion, we can discuss too, but no one should leave here feeling like they're being held to whatever it is.
But I would still, so I would ask for a motion, an official motion. Either way.
I will get the commission expresses concern that the resolution doesn't fully address the issue of lack of services, programs for those in need, trying to think of something,
Well, that's great.
something along those lines.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Conti, seconded by Commissioner Alexander. Is there any further discussion? I would just like, Commissioner Conti, would you like to work on drafting something?
I can try in terms of, I can't be here on Monday, I can try and.
I'm happy to read it on behalf of the Commissioner if anybody else wants to, but if you wanted to.
So it would be
I think you got that.
something, not long statement, but something
It's
that.
just something brief,
No doubt, you know,
and like you said, expresses concern about failing to.
Address the relevant concern.
Yes.
Or underlying consideration.
Something and then send that to Jasmine, you send around.
can you send it to the entire convention?
Yeah, it's probably everybody's email on the button.
Attachments. That's what I think. Change it.
You can send it to me, I'll send it.
Is there any further discussion, thoughts? Okay, hearing none, we'll move directly.
So, two more things, I'm sorry. So the council last night took a very heated debate about Indigenous Peoples' Day. Sorry. Sorry, so it's not clear.
Hearing none, we'll move directly to a vote. The vote is on the motion to draft a letter of concern. And have it read at the city council meeting, in regard to the proposed resolution 95.92.23R. All in favor.
Sorry.
Clarify.
82 thank you. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no. All right, motion carries. The chair recognizes Director.
So the council took up a very heated debate or discussion rather, about Indigenous Peoples' Day and changing the current recognition from Columbus Day to Indigenous Peoples' Day. There are some, and this is not those of the council, there are some who believe that two things can exist. They even have Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples' Day. I just preliminarily heard, well, if we're gonna go all the way back, then we would have to recognize that everyone has committed some type of atrocity. There's a lot of different thoughts. But nonetheless, there is this increasing discussion, yes.
All the stuff to do, they should think of stuff, more stuff. to do.
So, this is a solution I will share with everyone. I apologize, I'm sharing it sooner. I only just finished looking at the council meeting about this conversation. But it is something that is becoming more of a topic of conversation and just recognizing and honoring people who have been the victims of genocide and just for treatment. So
Do you know when this is coming up for vote?
again, I believe it's next week.
So that resolution is, Sergio, that resolution is not coming up for a vote.
Oh, it's not.
That's going to committee. There is a separate, and that resolution talks about Columbus and replacing that kind of stuff. That resolution is not. There's another resolution that was by Gabrielle Romero, which is the basic resolution which recognizes Indigenous Peoples' Day. That resolution, I don't know if it might be amended, it will come up. There's a separate ordinance, which is a committee that change, this makes it kind of a partial regulation without recognizing whatever.
Yeah.
So I listened, they listened actually last night, that discussion was really all over the place.
Yes.
Not really focused. One of the things that, and I actually submitted some comments on it myself. One of the things is that, understanding the genesis of Columbus Day, which really grew out of a violent, really, action in New Orleans in 1890, and the whole history of Italian immigrants down treated. But there was basically, East Chief of New Orleans was 1890, was murdered. There was some allegations that they were Italian immigrants who were already being sworn against. They arrested them. They were tried. 6 of them were acquitted. There was mistrials. Mob didn't like it. Basically, there's all history there. Ran basically murdered, mutilated, lynched, etc. These were considered one of the largest, if not the largest, mass lynching. But it's grew into really an international incident between Italy and the United States and diplomatic issues and all that kind of stuff. So Columbus was just, it was a one-time declaration that was what do you call 400 years? Whatever.
Yeah.
Everything else they recognized on this holiday, maybe much later that it was became a national holiday. But it was a way of diffusing some of the tensions, et cetera, and this was just, used for that. I have no interest in defending Christopher Columbus or anything like that. It's not that is not, I think what has happened is it really what has become is sometimes with their American heritage. And we've got this Christopher Columbus wrapped up into it. And it's almost like, and I have no problem with the resolution recognizing Indigenous Peoples' Day, but you need to be careful that you're not erasing that history at the same time. And that was some of the discussion last night, was some of the people got that, but it was also some of these guys talking about, I was taught in school this, you know, which is just, yeah. Right. So, you know, that personally, that's a concern I have, you don't. And it wasn't until 2019, actually, that there was formal petition and apology for that. But, so that, and actually October is Italian American History Month, or Italian American Heritage Month, History Month, whatever. So it's kind of all this wrapped up in, there are cities and municipalities that do recognize both. The president last year issued a proclamation recognizing both. That does happen. To me, the focus is not on Columbus. It should be on Italian American history and heritage and recognition of some of the things, but there was a really hard of things being done back then. And the people, the immigrants from Italy, Southern Italy, and Sicily were minus no connection to Columbus. They would come here 400 years after Columbus, right? For different reasons, you know, that kind of stuff, and they have any connection to Columbus or whatever.
Yeah, I'm first generation Italian. What? You're not celebrating Columbus Day, right?
No parties.
No. My mom gives a speech every year.
In City Hall, I think that the Italian flag is flown out of City Hall.
Yes, typically.
So that was, if you really get to the real discussion, that's really what the issue is. Recognize one, but don't at the same time erase
the other.
the other.
Yeah. I mean, that's part of this larger conversation with respect to monuments too, that's happening here. Former monument, I was gonna say City Hall. But absolutely, so that is the complexity of the issue, right? Having to honor everybody. But so again, with this too, the commission is welcome to speak, to provide any thoughts that you might have. As to whether there should be two iterations of language honoring one day in the heritage of the other, or if it should one should exist in place of the other.
I love what Commissioner Williamson said, because again, I'm a historian, so that was really nice to hear that. Why couldn't we do both? Columbus, his actions were terrible, we all know that, but the Italian American history part of it, that's what's removing us, that's really important, so why, we can't go baby with the bathwater and throw it away, why couldn't we step forward? Because it honors the indigenous folks as well as our Italian American citizens as well, so. I love that combination, both other states have done that, so.
Yeah, could you recognize Indigenous Peoples' Day and Italian History Month? Would that be a way to phrase it that would?
I thought,
Without.
Or you can actually, you just, you know, this is not the resolution that is going to come up.
this is different.
You can do two resolutions.
Yeah.
That's what I suggested.
That's coming up, it's not replacing it, it's just.
Yeah, the resolution that's coming up is just a straight recognition. Of
Yeah.
people saying, without mentioning Columbus or so that's.
Yeah, this one is the incentive and replacement line that's been pushed aside.
So what it sounds like is if we wanted to issue a letter of statement of support, that we would be doing so in the resolution to recognize Indigenous Peoples' Day. Solely stand alone without even talking about the other holiday, which is already being recognized.
Well, it's not recognized by the council. That's part of the problem is that, you know.
Yeah, let's add another layer in there.
Oh, right now it's a warranty.
Right now, what?
It seems to be the replacement one.
Is it equity?
Yeah.
It's like, it was like, or not, like, we're going down.
So. Again, we can issue a statement or what we would like to see, recognition for both. Or we could say we'd like just support the resolution for Indigenous Peoples' Day or for Columbus Day, it would be up to us, or we could choose to remain neutral and not say anything else.
Yeah, you could also do people say the time when you.
Heritage Month.
One day, one day, a day, one day a month.
Well, I think we can.
But so.
There goes the equity.
I think you say something like we support the other resolution, but then also want to recognize and bring light to the Italian American heritage in the month and put out some history and some facts that others may not know.
That's question why.
Right.
So you don't come, they only think about them. Shows up.
So. I'll entertain any motion that someone wants.
T-shirt.
That the commission supports resolution and the other.
Yes, you did. Not that number, it's a different number. Yeah, I don't know.
Insert number here.
I might be actually fine.
Resolution number to come. As well as provide information that would support Italian American Heritage Month in the month of October.
Yes.
Should we say Italian Month?
Sure. As well as recognize Italian American Heritage Month.
Second motion.
By Commissioner Alexander, seconded by Commissioner Kelly.
Shelley.
Shelley.
You basically.
It's been a long day. My problems. This one on.
Yeah, the resolution is 103.101.23.
Is there any further discussion? Great, hearing none, we'll move directly to a vote. The vote is on the motion to send or share a letter of support for resolution 103.101.23R. That supports the resolution and also recognizes October's Italian heritage. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed? Motion carries.
Can we make sure that that historical perspective, yeah, as a reckoning on why we're trying to do that?
Back is the I can speak to the Italian American heritage eloquently as you can.
Well, see, I did send something to the council, so I wrote something, let me see if I have something in there that could.
There's-
I'll send it out.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Commissioner. Maybe we should make. Excellent. This brings us to our public comment period.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more.
I lied.
Okay, last thing, very quickly, and we can discuss further. So for the last year and a half, the city has been working on the cannabis advisory committee to bring us up to par with the legalization of marijuana at the state level. One of the biggest things, and I was the staff were assigned to the cannabis advisory committee and the research, and the community outreach engagement. We spent a year and a half reviewing the USDO, talking to folks, meeting them where they are, western, south end, beyond. Really figuring out what the city has to do to ensure that we're hospitable to cannabis and that we're not creating an inequitable market in the way that already exists with respect to the criminalization of cannabis drugs. The biggest thing that we found out is that our current USDO, Unified Sustainable Development Ordinance today and zoning code, because of the existing edit, which was before the legalization, it only reflected medical marijuana. So now that we have the legalization of recreational marijuana, there are a limited number of areas in the city where you can open up a retail dispensary. It's primarily, and it's scattered around the city, but the heaviest concentration is in the warehouse district and down over in the Pastures South End area, part of downtown. It doesn't make sense, which is why we worked to change and propose edits to the code. So the edits really make cannabis similar to where liquor stores are. It accounts for the distancing requirements between schools and between houses of worship, no matter what faith you are. It's 250 and 500 feet between the two. And so this adds the definition of cannabis retail dispensaries. It changes it so that right now you can only have a cannabis retail facility in 4 places conditionally, which requires you to go through a long review process before the planning board. It can take months, cost money, things like that. And 2 places where it's permitted as of right, which means you apply, so the review is very quick. We have heard and learned that because of these rules, people are going outside the city. So that's one of the big reasons, and then the folks who are getting licenses, we want to make sure that people who have been harmed by prohibition are getting back into the industry, and because they've paid their debt and they're doing the right thing, right? They're operating within the boundaries of the law. So this legislation, we've discussed it extensively with the council, and I'll send more information about it, but it changed the zoning table, it changes the areas, and I can show you.
Does it change anything about any of those requirements? I heard some requirements, is why people couldn't get.
That's what the state, those are, all the cannabis standards, so the city really can't change that.
And
Yeah, we have a very limited oversight for the state regulations, it's time, place, manner, so it's hours of operation, it's the geography really, and it's under certain circumstances, right? But unfortunately, the eligibility that's determined by the state, like where your location really ends up being, you have to work with the state to get that, and then you come to us. So we just want to make sure that after people figure that all out, that we're not making that any harder for anyone. But the state is working through some challenges, right? And we have to allow them to do that. We need to oversight that. So there will be a final discussion and vote at the council meeting on it. We've heard from faith members, we've heard from business owners, we've heard from folks who live next to popular spot. We heard from everybody.
Smoking weed everywhere. She told me that people, they go out to lunch or sit outside and they bring smoke weed, come right back in, smell like a mug.
Yeah, so. Well,
I think you have to be careful because of like different things. And again, speaking from experience and at where I used to work. If the city is not careful about how we do the rollout, we're just gonna see the information of illegal cannabis being allowed and illegal cannabis sales. We're gonna sell on revenue, and that's what's illegal, the illegal cannabis shop and the illegal sale of cannabis is what's illegal.
Well, that's right.
Right.
I mean, it's.
and that's why we want to make sure that this gets out there, because it's not gonna be anyone, right? It's really always an additional problem. So our codes department is working to. You see a shop pops up, we're going in there, we're working with OCM and we're trying to enforce and shut it down. But
Them people, they are not police. And
Well,
you had this
It's
conversation.
the state though.
No, code enforcement.
I know, that's the state, the legislation, New York City had the same issue with NYPD, want NYPD to enforce the illegal cannabis shop, and this NYPD is saying the legislation does not allow them to do this, so the sheriff's department has to do it, not NYPD.
yeah, it's a whole.
Law enforcement does not have the authority.
And that's the thing too, so they ask you to fill out this form on the cannabis management website, what is the shop, where is it located, what is the time that you found it out? Why do you suspect, it's this whole form that you're supposed to fill out and collaborate, but they are trying to ask the localities to help. When OCM being presented here, they express that they're having trouble with some localities helping with enforcement. So it's this intergovernmental partnership, and because it's so new, there are so many moving pieces. I think it's having a hard time getting set.
Let me clarify my statement. Law enforcement does not believe that the language as written gives them the authority to enforce.
Give everybody in quarter.
Because it's a avenue that you can go through. So like in New York City, they're using sheriff department, and then what they're doing, they're going after the landlords of the building.
Right.
Because you're allowing this illegal shop.
Right, and that's what we should do, even here in Norfolk, go after the landlords. Because they are allowing the tenants to do anything, as long as you pay.
Yeah, so I mean, it's something that we're gonna take on, and we're gonna figure it out as it goes, but I certainly hear you. So we are hoping that the state's new rollout, or the new arm of the rollout, the full application, and that will come back to session, and these changes, the enforcement aspect. But this is going to be a learning experience for all of us. So these are some of the changes. I've heard a lot of concerns about, I can show you the cannabis advisory committee report to us and all to you. People who were surveyed, we got 900 people to respond to the survey in the city. It was fairly close to the demographics. I walked up and down some streets trying to get responses. I promise you, we had 2 people. But you can't force people to take surveys. Some people were really concerned about how the information will be used as journal business. So we did get a lot of feedback, some of it was different, but most people said, don't make it any harder than it already is. If you are a bad actor, you should have consequences, but if you are abiding by the law, you should have problems. Times are changing, be respectful, be considerate if you're out smoking, or people said, you know, I don't want to walk through a cloud of smoke with my kid, right? I don't want it to be any worse than cigarettes. So trying to balance the fact that it's now treated the same as tobacco. But we have to look at concerns, and the state is responsible for the public health. So that's kind of where this is at. To answer more questions about that. I'll send them our presentations for the after.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm done.
So, this brings us to our public comment period.
We have no signups.
Seeing that we have no signups for this evening. Unless there are any announcements, we will adjourn at 7:14.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bring this meeting. One second, check.